One of the techniques that I've been using to predict things is based on the concept of story, meaning that when you see a situation develop that could go more than one way, and you say, well, it's either going to go this way or that way, and it's something that's taking place over time. There's a little bit of time transpiring so that events can move in the direction of story, that what happens is that the best story wins. And let me give you an example of that, and then I'll give you a little more detail what I mean. So if you were going to predict the future, I have a hypothesis I've been tracking that the best story is usually how the future turns out. So take, for example, the OJ trial. The best story was that it looked like he did it, but he still got off. But then he went to jail for something else, right? If you were going to make the story of OJ, that's what it would look like. Likewise, when President Trump was running for office, I think it became clear to everybody at some point that whether or not you preferred him to win, it was definitely the better story, right? And I talked about that a lot as part of the prediction, that I saw it as a 3-act play. Now, here's how I predicted the last 3 years of the NBA Finals and got them right each of these years. Most of you are going to note is that the last 3 years weren't the hardest things to predict because the Warriors were so dominant, and it was either going to be Cleveland and LeBron James winning or the Warriors. But let me tell you how the story prediction works. In 2015, or at least the year that the finals happened in 2015, the Warriors had that amazing season where it was just the best season anybody ever had. So it would have been a bad story if they had the best season anybody ever had and still somehow lost the finals. So I said the best story is the Warriors have the best season and they win the finals. And in 2015, they did. 2016, I said, well, the Warriors repeating isn't much of a story. But if LeBron James, who was chasing a title and chasing maybe the reputation as possibly, arguably, one of the best players of all time, at least in the conversation for top 3, I would say, right? But he hadn't won a title. And he was going to come up against the best team of all time. What would be the best way for LeBron James to finally get a title if he's not going to win a lot of them, right? Great players like LeBron normally would win more than one. But the best way to do it in terms of what would be the best story would be he would beat the dominant Warriors. And he did. And that's what I predicted would happen in 2016. And then this year, Kevin Durant came and joined the Warriors to give them a really good chance of beating LeBron and whoever else they happened to encounter in the finals. Kevin Durant, one of the greatest players of all time, amazing player, but didn't have a championship yet. So what was the best story? Well, it wasn't that the Warriors just win again, because that already happened. It wasn't LeBron gets a ring because he got one. Now the best story was Kevin Durant, who scored about 40 points tonight to single-handedly take the Warriors to victory. No, not single-handedly. A lot of Stephen Curry. Yeah, and you saw LeBron chased him all the way, point for point. So here's the hypothesis, and you should just sort of track this over your life. See how often, when you're looking at a type of situation that could go, only one of a few ways, Trump was going to win or lose, the Warriors were going to win or lose, OJ was going to be convicted or not. Ask yourself which is the best story, and then bet on the story. And here's why, and again, this is just a hypothesis, and this is just for fun, there's no science behind this. But it kind of makes sense if you understand persuasion, right? So I'll tell you why this might make sense. It's pretty well known that the way our brains are wired, that if we're thinking about something or or we've been influenced by patterns, we can subconsciously choose things that, are not strictly based on our sense of reason. In other words, we can be influenced by all kinds of things that are a little bit below our conscious level. The book Persuasion by Robert Cialdini is a great example of that. It talks about all the ways that people are exposed to one thing and then they go to a completely different conversation or different decision, and they're still influenced by that completely unrelated thing that happened just before. So the point is that we're influenced by all these, these currents and patterns and, emotions that are flying around, but we're not always aware of it. So the idea is that once everybody understands what's the best story, everybody starts acting to make that happen, including the players on the losing team. So if the hypothesis holds, at some point, everyone watching, and certainly all the players on both teams, knew what the best story was this year. And I don't think they intentionally threw the game or anything like that, because the level of skill you were seeing employed there was so high that you just can't imagine either team was trying to lose. It didn't look like it. But once people have it in their mind that the best story is a certain result, I think that there is a subconscious bias toward causing it to happen, even if that means being on the losing team. Everybody likes to win, but, all things being equal, if one of the stories is better, I think both the winning and the losing team start moving toward that result. I don't know. Would that be, I don't know if that has anything to do with Carl Jung's stuff. Or no way, Golden State is just too talented. Yeah, so here's the reason it's a hypothesis, right? Because it's certainly reasonable to believe that the Warriors won 2 out of 3 years because they're the frickin' Golden State Warriors, and, they have Stephen Curry and now Kevin Durant and the other teams don't. And maybe it's just that, right? So you can't rule that out. But so the reason this is the late night conversation and not the morning conversation is because I'm not trying to be too rational. This is for fun, but now watch over the rest of your lifetime. Watch how many times it seems to you that the best story wins. Okay?